Hi, welcome back to the Michael K. Show, everybody. I can honestly say, just from reading Twitter and getting the phone calls before, this is certainly a highly, widely anticipated interview because everybody wants to hear what this gentleman has to say. He's the head guy. He owns the whole deal at the Garden, the Knicks and the Rangers. James Dolan joins us here in studio. Jim, how you doing? How's life?
All right. Mike, how you doing? Don?
Good.
All right, so let's start. We reported about a half hour ago that Oakley cannot come into the Garden anymore. What's behind that? Why that decision?
Well, first off, I saw that they're talking about a lifetime ban. I'll talk about that in a little bit, but that's not necessarily a lifetime ban. But I think the most important thing with that is that, we need to keep the Garden a place that's comfortable and safe for everybody who goes there. Mm-hmm. So anybody who comes to the Garden, whether they've been drinking too much alcohol, they're looking for a fight, they're abusive, disrespectful to the staff and the fans, they're going to be ejected and they're going to be banned. Because everybody has a right to come to that game, to come to those games and enjoy them. And no one has the right to take that away from everybody else. And in this case, that did happen. And so we are going to, put the ban in place, and hopefully, won't be forever.
But you would have to admit, this isn't your ordinary fan. This is Charles Oakley. This is a really popular former Knick. Are you concerned about the court of public opinion coming down against you, even though you may believe you're doing the right thing, that you're going to really tick off your customers?
Well, certainly Charles is a great Knick. Mm-hmm. We should probably get that off the table right at the start. Charles was a great Knick. I loved watching Charles Oakley play basketball for the New York Knicks, as I think all the other fans did too, right? So, still admire, the way he played. And I think one of the things with the fans is that, they remember how Charles played, and he was tough, he was gritty, and he always had, 110% energy. And, I think at times think that, our teams haven't had what Charles had. And so, I think that makes him even more sort of beloved, especially considering how we're doing. But am I concerned about it? Yes, but at the same time, the number one concern always has to be the safety and the comfort of the fans. And that whether it's Charles Oakley or Charles Lindbergh or Charles Dolan, right? Mm-hmm. You do those things, right? You come to the Garden and you behave that way and you abuse people that way, right? And subject people to that kind of behavior, you will be ejected and banned. That is the right thing to do. And yes, I understand that he was a big star and a Knick, etc. But that doesn't excuse people from that kind of behavior.
All right, let's talk about specifically that kind of behavior. What happened on Tuesday, Jim? What's behind why he got thrown out and eventually got arrested?
Well, I think that, we've sent you some material and it's starting to get out now. It's very clear to us, right, that Charles Oakley came to the Garden with an agenda, right, with a mission in mind. And from the moment he stepped into the Garden, the moment he walked through the first set of doors, he began with this behavior, abusive behavior, disrespectful behavior, stuff that I don't think you want to say on the radio.
Right.
Right. You'd probably get thrown out of here for saying that stuff. And it just accelerated and accelerated and accelerated all the way down to his seats, and then ultimately with a confrontation with security, and eventually ending up with his being ejected and arrested.
I'm sorry, Don, when you talk about the agenda, was the agenda to get to you think?
I don't really know for sure. I'm not inside of Charles Oakley's mind. He did say a bunch of things along the way that looked like he was headed in my direction, right? I didn't hear them myself, but we heard from our employees, et cetera, that he was using my name a lot, and and so but this isn't because I'm nervous. This is because you can't do what he did and and stay.
You mentioned the second he stepped foot in the Garden. In retrospect, could there have been something done an ejection, a confrontation before he even got to his seat?
We clearly did not do, we weren't perfect here, and I think that Charles never should have made it to his seats. That was, and that's on us. Right, and we're doing things to remedy that, to make sure that that doesn't happen again with anybody. I mean, if once you're identified as someone who is behaving like that, right, and look, I can't say for sure. We know that he talked about on TV that he was drinking beforehand, right? We've heard statements from some of the police and security that he was, that he appeared to be impaired, etc. But yes, that they clearly, our staff could see that. Were they intimidated, and that's why they didn't do anything? I don't know. I mean, we're only like a day after this thing. So, but the right thing, if everything had gone well, is he never would have made it to his seats.
Now, that being said, today, early this morning, you parted ways with the vice president of security at the Garden. Is that tied into what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly was, I mean, that was just, a situation where the person didn't work out, and this was probably the last straw, right? But, that we are, we're obviously looking at everything that we did here along the way and what happened, and that's one of the casualties.
Are you afraid for your safety when he's around? Because he said that whenever he comes to the Garden, there's security following him, even into the bathroom. Are you afraid that he's going to come after you?
No. I don't think so. Although he's been quoted saying things like he would poison my food. I don't think he's serious about that stuff. I mean, they look, when anybody famous comes to the Garden, right? Anybody, right? There's a heightened security presence around that person, right? I could tell you a story. One time, Mark Messier and I were in the elevator, and I said, "Let's stop and get a hot dog. We can run to the hot dog stand and run back, and we'll never get noticed." Mm-hmm. That was a huge mistake. By the time we got the hot dogs, there were over like 200 fans, right? And and it was a security problem. So we're always mindful of everybody who's famous, especially alumni, Nick, right? That come to the games, and so usually it's a help.
When this was, you were right there. I've seen the video. Right there. Were you cringing that this is on national television too, Jim? Were you cringing over what was happening?
A, I didn't realize it was on national television. Mm-hmm. Not that it would have made a difference. B, I didn't, I wasn't aware, right, of all of this stuff that happened beforehand, obviously, right? I wasn't aware that he was behind us, right? It wasn't until it was pointed out to me that he was behind us, right? That I sort of opened my ear and started to hear, and what I heard was terrible. Mm-hmm. The security personnel came up to me and said, there's a problem behind you. It's Charles Oakley. I said, well, can you wait to in between quarters, right, to deal with it, rather than they having a scene right while the game is going on? They said yes, right, and then it just got worse. And I said, you got to do what you got to do.
So are you shocked that he has come out? He's been interviewed several times. He's done nothing wrong. He was not foul-mouthed. Nothing was wrong. He said all of this stuff.
It's unbelievable. I mean, I can't explain why he's. I mean. We have videotape. We have, dozens of statements, etc. I'm quite sure that everything that we've given, the press, etc., and this is very, very accurate. So I don't know how to explain it. Maybe he doesn't remember it. To me, I think that. Charles has got a problem. I've said this before. We've said it before. We said at one time that, he's his own worst problem. He has a problem. People need to, sort of understand that he has a problem with anger. He's both physically and verbally abusive. He may have a problem with alcohol. We don't know, right? But those behaviors, being physically and verbally abusive, are those are personality problems.
Now, you're sitting right in front of me, and you might not like me saying this, but I thought the release the night of the game that said at the end he needs help. Isn't that kind of personal? Should that have been made public?
I mean, look, we were trying to be kind, right? It obviously didn't come off that way.
Right.
But I do think that Charles needs help. He can't want to have the things that have happened to him, particularly since he retired as a player. They aren't good. He's had many physical altercations. Right, he's been arrested. He's had a lot of trouble, and it all seems to stem from his anger. And so that can't be something that he intended to have happen. And maybe he doesn't remember it, but I think, I think he's somewhat in denial.
We talked about taking off your fans by what happened with Charles Oakley. What about players? I mean, we've seen players like Chris Paul and Dwayne Wade show support to Charles Oakley.
And LeBron.
Former players like Reggie Miller. I mean, you're in the business of trying to attract free agency. You're in the business of trying to make New York and the Knicks an attractive place to come. So how do you reconcile the feeling of the momentum being built against you for this stance?
Well, I mean, look, again, the first thing is always going to be about the fans, right? I mean, it's always going to be about the Garden being safe and inviting and comfortable. So, I mean, that we're not willing to move on at all. But that other players being supportive for other players is totally understandable, right? The transition from being, an active player to being a retired player is difficult. But, at the same time, I would point out to every single one of them, right? You look at the Rangers and Knicks alumni. We have great relationships with all of our alumni. This is an anomaly. This is not, you're not going to find 10 guys out there who are saying, the Knicks didn't treat me well. In fact, I think, if I go across the entire span that I've been there, 20 plus years, right, there might be one, maybe two at the most, right, who are unhappy with the out of hundreds, right? Go ask any of them how they feel about the organization, about how they've been treated, about what their relationship is like, and I think you'll hear nothing but positive stuff.
Jim, you care about your fans. You've said that. And to be blunt, just from the reaction we've got, your fans don't like you. They blame you for everything that's gone wrong with the Knicks. You're the evil one. You've hired the wrong people. How could you be the one telling the truth and Oakley to be the one who's not? What's your feelings on your fan base, for the Knicks fan base, not liking you so viscerally?
Well, look, first off, you'd be hard-pressed to find a living New York team owner, right, that the fans like, right?
Maybe John Mara.
Maybe, right, but only in a championship year. So you sort of know when you come into it that, you're not going to be the most loved individual. I do think, you hear that from some fans, but I hear from plenty of fans that they appreciate, right, that we take, the investment into the team to the max that we can take it, that we do everything we can to make the game experience as great of a game experience, even when we lose, right, for our fans. We spent $1 billion renovating the Madison Square Garden. I don't believe that it's everybody who feels that way, right? But I do believe that, there is, a malcontent group that's always very vocal, and I think they'll always be there.
Is there a chance? George Steinbrenner and Yogi Berra got together. Is there a chance that you could see you and Oakley getting together? And is there something in your past? He said that he went to shake your hand at a New Orleans All-Star game and you ignored him, wouldn't shake his hand. Would you ever want to get in a room with him and patch this up?
Listen, there was nothing that would make me happier than to see Charles Oakley, right, be at center court, right, being honored along with the rest of his teammates and my shaking his hand, etc. And all we really need for that to happen is for Charles, right, to address these behaviors. Right? It's I don't recall anything at an All-Star game, so I'm not sure what that's about.
Okay.
He was a great Knick, and we would love to have him, and all of his teammates, et cetera, still come, and et cetera, and he should be with that group. He should be up there at center court, like with we had the bomb squad the other day. He should be up there being recognized because the fans do love him. He's just but this behavior is it just doesn't work with that. Until he can address it and get it under control, then we probably won't be able to do it. But yes, I would love if that would happen.
How do you feel about the direction your franchise is going?
Well, 3 years ago, I signed a contract with Phil Jackson, the man who has more championship rings, as far as I know, than anybody else. And he was the best guy that we thought we could find to run the New York Knicks. And I made an agreement with him. And the agreement didn't say, right, that you have to have this amount of wins, right, et cetera, by this time or anything of the sort like that. I literally turned over the entire basketball operations over to Phil and to Steve. And that is where I'm at. Whether I like the results or don't like the results, I am going to honor that agreement all the way to the end. It's not over yet, and my hope is that the team will become much, much better, and that Bill will be successful. And he's had all along the way. He has my support and any of the resources that he needs to do it. But I recognize that some 3+ years ago, right, that this, running a basketball operation, right, this is not my skill set. The best thing I could do was to find the best guy, and everybody seemed to agree. In fact, a lot of people said, you won't be able to stay away. You're going to meddle, right? I think everybody recognizes now that I have stayed away, and I have let Phil absolutely run the franchise, and I intend to do that for the length of the agreement. How could I ever get anybody else to come and work for us, right, if I didn't honor my agreement?
Now, I hear what you're saying, and that's noble, but, I might say, if I'm looking at you, that's like, Nero Fiddles is Rome Burns. He's done a terrible job. He's killing his own player in tweets, a guy that you like, Carmelo Anthony. So, now would be the time I think fans would want you to step in.
Yes, of course. Right now, at this point, right, I'm hearing from people, you have to step in, right? No, that's just not, look, it doesn't work that way.
And you still believe in him?
I'm going to honor my agreement. It doesn't matter whether I think he's right or whether he's wrong, et cetera, right? I'm going to honor my agreement because because that's what you do, right? And he's got at least a little more than two years left, right? And he has every right, to continue on with that agreement for the full time. And and let's hope that he's successful.
Now, it was reported the other day by Brian Windhorst of ESPN that you also have an opt-out after the third year. You could get out of the deal.
I am not going to exercise any opt-outs, right? I don't know that Bill is going to either. I'm going to honor that agreement for the full agreement.
Well, you had mentioned one of the reasons why you want to honor it is because who would want to come work for you if you didn't honor a contract? But with his bashing of Carmelo Anthony, what player is going to want to come play here if they know that their president is bashing a superstar?
That is totally within Phil's control. Phil has to address that. He's going to be concerned about that. I am not going to weigh in on those things that I said I wouldn't weigh in on.
Now, you like Carmelo, though. You're the guy who kind of expedited the trade. You made it happen.
I did.
Do you want Carmelo traded? Would it upset you if he was traded?
You know what? Michael, I'm not going to go there because that's meddling with Phil, right? And that's telling him how to do his job, and I'm not going to do it.
Okay, now, not talking about the specific performance. The fact that you're sitting here is a big deal. You don't do these very often.
No, this is not my favorite place to be.
It's not your thing. And I don't think that you would have a wake if your guys didn't ever talk, the executives. But Phil doesn't do interviews, but tweets out these cryptic things. Are you okay with the tweets?
He has that part of his agreement, right, is that he completely controls his own public relations, his own fan relations, etc. It's totally within his control.
Wow, you gave him a lot of control.
You know what? Hey, you just need a memory here. No,
everybody was calling for it. You're right.
Absolutely, everybody was calling for it, right? And to get a guy with 11 rings, right, with that kind of experience to come and do the job, right? He was right to say I need full control, right? We wouldn't have been able to get him. I'm not gonna bite on the bait, guys.
Mm-hmm. I wonder though. Because I just want to see something that's out there, and it's almost accepted as fact, that when Carmelo was re-signed, you told Phil, listen, you can do whatever you want, you have to re-sign him. And that he wanted to name Rambis coach, and you said, no, not him. True or not?
No, not true. No.
And the Carmelo thing's not true?
The Carmelo thing is not true either. It was totally up to Phil what to do. And I honestly had no idea what he was going to do. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, I sort of made a point of staying away and not weighing in.
But you still own the team. Anything he does in terms of expenditures has to essentially come out of your pocket. Does he tell you what he's going to do?
He submits a budget through Steve, who does a lot of the operations work too, right? And he's. Financially, he stayed absolutely on target. So, I mean...
Why now with this, Jim? You mentioned that to your admittance that you had gotten involved before. Why with Phil have you drawn this line of demarcation not to get involved?
Because, look, 3 years ago, if you look at where we were before that, right, where I tried to use, the best I could do to help along with this, right, we weren't doing well. And the fans were upset. As they should be. They want a winning team every year. And I recognize that I just plain don't have those skills, right? I mean, so the smart thing to do as an executive, right, is to hire, when you can't do something, right, it's not in your skill set, you hire somebody who's good at it, right? Try and hire the best you can because it's New York, right? And that's what you do in New York. You try and get the best you can.
But was there any concern on your part, Jim, that he's probably, arguably, the greatest coach in the history of sports? He's up there with Belichick and Popovich and Auerbach and all that, but he never did this. I mean, was there a concern? He never did this job.
I don't recall there being a concern. And mostly, we were concerned about whether he would come.
Right.
Right. I think that Phil Jackson is a great basketball mind. I don't know how you could argue otherwise. And with the success that he's had. So that's what drew us to him.
Do you believe he's going to opt out, or you have a good feeling that he'll stay?
I have gotten no indications that he's planning on doing anything but staying through the entire length of the contract.
One thing that's misunderstood with fans with you, I've talked to you. You really do want to win. You want to make money, but you really want to win. Does it just eat at you that since you bought the Knicks, there hasn't been much winning, Jim?
I would like to win. You're right. I'm not sure I should say much more than that. I would really like to win, but you know what? Everybody who works with me, right, including Phil, we want to win. And you know what? But by the way, so does everybody else who works there. Phil Jackson wants to win. Carmelo Anthony wants to win. Jeff Hornacek wants to win. Everything I see says that they're putting all of their effort and energy into it. We haven't been winning, but I've got the best people on it that I could find, and I don't know that there's much more else that I can do.
No, you made it clear you're not going to get involved, but you're also a fan. Do you think he's done a good job in these 3 years?
You know what? I won't comment on that, Dom. You're gonna, because from the position I'm in, right, Phil doesn't need to hear from me, especially through the radio, right, about the job. But you know what? It's a 5-year deal, guys, right? Maybe at the end of 5 years we'll see, right? But right now, while he's still in the middle of his deal and he's doing that job, I'm staying out.
Let's circle back to Oakley before we let you go because our time is limited. If he comes to the game tonight against the Nuggets, he's not getting in.
No.
You said you'd like him to get help. Would the Knicks help him get help?
Oh, absolutely.
You would actually place him in.
Get
him in contact with people.
When you have issues like this, the first step for anybody, right, is to ask for help. He has lots of people around him, I think, who would help him, but we would too. If he would seriously address these issues.
Now you have John Starks working for you, Larry Johnson, Allen Houston. Have any of them spoken to you about what happened on Tuesday? Because they like him.
Yeah, no, they do like him, right? But no, I haven't had any direct conversations with him. I mean, they look. Charles was. This is not just day before yesterday incident. We've had a relationship with Charles since he retired and left the Knicks, right? And every time we have tried, right, to patch things up with him, to mend things with him, we invite him to games. Every time it ends up the same way, right? Abusive, disrespectful, right? And we eventually gave up, right? And we stopped trying to reach out for him. And now this, look, and it's not just it's certainly not just about me. Right, and I would like the fans to hear this too. Right, there were security people there who were abused. There were service people there who were abused. Right, the same people that the fans who come to the game tonight who are going to help those fans. Right, find their seats, get them food, that try and make them comfortable. They were abused not in a really horrible, right, angry, nasty way with racial, overtones, the sexual overtones, the stuff you never ever want to hear. I mean, how do you bring your kids to a game if you think that's going to happen? You don't. There was a time way back when, before we took over the Garden, where the Garden was a place where, it would be not uncommon to see fights and extremely rowdy behavior. We put an end to that. We're not going to ever go back to that. It's always going to be a place where you can bring your kids, you can bring your family, you're going to be safe. And no one is going to disparage you or treat you like that.
Did it bother you yesterday at the Ranger game? People were chanting Charles Oakley?
I certainly noticed it, right? I think, on one hand, I understand it because, again, he was a great Knick player, right? I'd like to be chanting Charles Oakley. I wish I could be. But I do think that those fans, like, for instance, tonight, when at the game, right, we'll probably hear chants tonight. Mm-hmm. But I would like those same people to look around, right, and look at the people who are working at Madison Square Garden and understand that the person that they're chanting for may have been a great Knick player, but he was terribly abusive to those same people who are there to help him. And when they do that, right, in some way, they're saying, that as good as you are to me, it doesn't matter to me. And it's take them into account, please.
To the fans that have painted you as a villain or the reason the team is losing, what do you say to those people? What's the message to them?
Ask Phil.
Now, I have to ask you this, and I don't know, I read it on Twitter, and this seems to be a very new term in our lexicon, fake news. Were the people that chanted Charles Oakley thrown out of the Ranger game yesterday?
No.
No way.
There were a lot of them.
Yeah, there were a lot.
No. Look, that's not abuse. There's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, we prefer that you root for our team, but even if you root for the other team, when you're still welcome to come to Madison Square Garden.
Now, you go to the game tonight?
I am.
Are you afraid of what you're going to hear? I mean, there are people that might be chanting stuff at you.
You know what? I fully expect that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. And the way I will interpret is that it's the love of Charles Oakley's basketball game, which I totally understand.
I wanted to confirm something we've said for a lot of years. In defense of you, we'll say, well, the Rangers are winning, and he's the owner of the Rangers too. To clear it up, your level of involvement with the Rangers is the same as it is for the Knicks, correct?
No. Actually, Glenn and I and Jeff, right, talk quite often, right? And I don't seem to have had a negative impact there. They, so, they still like me to come and talk and give my opinions, etc.
Okay.
But Glenn still does have the final say on all matters Rangers.
Would you say these last couple of days, Jim, are embarrassing for the whole organization, the Knicks, Oakley, everything?
Well, I certainly think that Charles should be embarrassed, right? Should we be embarrassed? I think we're sad. I wouldn't say embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
Look, this is an abusive situation, right? The staff, the workers at Madison Square Garden, me, right, et cetera, were abused here. Right. If you're being abused, don't be embarrassed. Just refuse to be abused.
Jim, we thank you for coming in. We really do.
Yeah, thanks for the time.
Yeah, have a good time in the game tonight.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right.
That is James Dolan, the man who runs the Garden, the Knicks and the Rangers. We thank him for coming in to the Michael K. Show. We'll take some phone calls. We'll discuss some of the stuff that Jim just said. Kay, LaGreca, Dolan, and you right here on Yes and 98.7 ESPN.